Hello everyone and welcome to my channel, and today we're going to be painting up 20 Beast Snagga Orks from the Beast Snagga box set. And I've already assembled them all together and I've already glued them onto my 3D printed bases. However, some of them have not much contact with the ground, so they're weakly attached. So we'll be using a Dremel tool bit and we will drill through the bases and into their feet, and then with some paper clips carefully cut, you'll then insert them in with super glue, and so that the models are strongly bonded to the bases. And then with Bright Touch General Purpose Primer, gray car primer, we'll be priming the entirety of all these models. And then with Pallid Witch Flesh, White Scar, and Transparent Raw Sienna, we're going to do the undercoating. We're going to start off with Pallid Witch Flesh, and we're actually going to start off by spraying this at like a 45-degree angle down, creating the lights from the shadows. And then we'll be taking White Scar White, and we'll be dry brushing this all over to pick out the edges and the details. Mostly focusing on the face, because that has to be a focal point. And then with the Burnt Sienna, we're going to airbrush this in lightly from the bottom to create some light brown shadows. This is good for the skin, but for like the pants and maybe the fur and stuff, you could go a bit darker. You could use some, contrast paints instead through an airbrush, but I don't know which ones you would have to use. I just used this ink because it worked well and it was a light brown color that would go well with the skin. Now with Ork Flesh and Lamian Medium mixed sort of 1-to-1-ish, or maybe a little thinner, I want it to be a bit translucent because I'm only going to apply one coat. I want it to be very light because I want the skin, for the white in the skin, to still show through. And then I'm going to apply this all over the flesh, and I'm not going to do any further coats. So I do test it on occasionally on some of the bases to make sure it's the right thickness. And now with some Mineral Spirits and Winsor & Newton Viridian Hue, this oil color, we're going to make a wash. It's going to be a pretty thick wash, and because I want it to sort of cake up onto the model. And then this is what the models look like before. Then we're going to apply this all over the skin. And basically we're just going to paint all 20, and then we will come back and then just start removing. We'll use a series of makeup sponges to remove. Now we're not going to like roughly remove it, we're basically going to use just the weight of the sponge to remove. And we want to choose which way we scrub, because we don't want to remove the details on the inside. And then after that we're going to go back with the wash. I'm going to apply it to places where there is shadow, their traps, arms, some of their lower back, the back of their hands, even their fists, stuff like that, to add in a little bit more shadow in specific areas. And now with magenta and titanium white oil colors, we're going to make some sort of, not really 1-to-1, but we're going to keep adding a little bit of magenta to titanium white till it's pink. And then basically we're going to apply this in a straight line on the torn flesh and their lips. Then we're going to take a simple makeup smudge and tap, 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 tap. And what this is going to do is the few taps is going to, when you apply the oil paint on with the brush, it's a strong, firm color, but when you apply the slight tappings of the makeup sponge, it blends the color in and softens it, so it looks like a more natural transition. And it works pretty well. And then we'll take the pure magenta and put it in their mouths, and then with makeup sponge, we're going to just wipe the excess away so that the upper raised areas of their tongues and mouths will be pinker. And now with Mephiston Red, Evil Sun Scarlet, and Troll Slayer Orange, we are going to paint a few things, eyes and blood. So with Mephiston Red, we're going to paint this with a fine brush directly into the open cuts that they have. And the color is going to be bright and stark contrast to everything else. We can't really put in a sponge in there to lessen it. And then with Evil Sunz Scarlet, we're going to apply this as the base layer to the eyes. Also note that there's a few guys that have lenses, 2 of them. So we're basically going to go from Mephiston Red to Evil Sunz and then to Troll Slayer, less and less on the lenses. And then with Troll Slayer Orange, we'll take just a dot of it and apply it onto the eyes. We're just going to try to paint the center. The Evil Sunz is the whole eye, and the Troll Slayer is just maybe a third or half of the eye, as best you can. And now with Steel Legion Drab and Rakarth Flesh, I'm going to paint their teeth. So I start out with Steel Legion Drab, filling out the mouth, or it depends. If their mouths are closed, their teeth are obvious. If their mouths are open, just paint the teeth with this Steel Legion Drab. And then I paint the tips and the outer edges with Rakarth Flesh. However, please note that looking back, I probably should have had a much darker color in first to sort of add a backdrop to their colors. Maybe some Rhinox hide or something in the back. And with Dark Reaper and Hobgrot Hide, we're going to paint the bases. With Hobgrot Hide, we're going to paint the desert dirt ground. And with Dark Reaper, we're just going to paint the rocks. And now with Karakstone, Dawnstone, Steel Legion Drab, and XV88, we're going to paint their pants and such. And so I dilute the paint with a lot of water, and I show you here how I do it. And essentially what happens is I paint this diluted color on all their pants, and I alternate. And so basically each of the colors goes on a quarter of the guys. So 5 guys will have Karakstone, 5 will have Dawnstone, 5 will have Steel Legion, 5 will have XV88 on their pants. And when it's diluted like this, the undercoat shows through, so the natural highlighting and shadows and recesses are visible. And now with Dark Reaper and Averland Sunset, we're going to paint a few things. The Dark Reaper is going to go straight for their boots. All their boots are going to be the same. This dark brownish leather, so we're going to use Dark Reaper for that. And then with Averland Sunset, some of them have these loincloths made of cloth, not beast hide or fur. So we're going to paint them with Averland Sunset. And now, going on to Steel Legion Drab and Mournfang Brown, we're going to take Steel Legion Drab and we're going to paint their leather belts and these leather straps that they have across their chests, holding their pelts up, or their wrists and such and such. Then we're going to take Mournfang Brown and we're going to use it to paint the stitches on their pants and clothing, as well as the leather for their ammo pouches. And now with Cyberite Green, Evil Sunz Scarlet, Dawnstone, and Gorthor Brown, we're going to paint the pelts and furs. So we're just going to go through, watered down, not translucent watered down, but just enough to make it flow better, and we're going to apply it on all their pelts and stuff, just randomly. The Dawnstone and Gorthor Brown will go to the furs, but they can also somewhat go to some of the skins and stuff. Yeah, just have fun with it. Now with Doombull Brown and Pallid Witch Flesh, we're going to paint the weapons. With Doombull Brown, watered down, we're going to apply this to the leather straps on their weapon handles. Because it's watered down, it'll naturally highlight and show the underpainting we did. And then once that's done, we're going to take the Pallid Witch Flesh and then we're going to apply this on all their weapons and armor plates and stuff like that as a base layer. This takes a while, by the way. Alright then, with blue, light brown, black, and dark brown, we're going to be painting their furs and a bunch of things. So you can see the colors that I'm associating with them. The only thing I would probably do is do a darker brown on the red pelts and skins. And so we're going to apply a wash on all these things. And so basically what I'm doing is I'm applying these different washes to each of the pelts, and then removing them lightly with makeup sponges. But as far as the Cyberite green pelts that have the blue on them, in some cases I didn't really brush or use the sponge that much, or I went back and applied a little bit more wash in some areas. It depends. The ones with scales, not so much. The ones that are like thin skins, I don't know how to describe it, but those I didn't use that much of the sponge to clean up. After that, a few other things as well. I also took the burnt umber, the darkest brown, and just applied a thick sludge wash of that on all their bases. I applied the washes appropriately onto their pants as well. Like the dark grays and browns got black. The brownish ones got dark brown attached to them. Their belts and leather straps had burnt umber as a paint, not as a wash, applied onto. It wasn't the best. It's the one thing on these kits that look the worst in comparison to everything. And then after that as well, I also apply the burnt umber onto their wrist straps and leather straps like that, and then remove some with the sponge to show that stuff towards the light is lighter. And sorry about the camera angles. This is one thing that always seems to be random for me. It's hard to get it right. But I will have you know that this took a while. This actually, the footage you're seeing for all these applying of washes and stuff, took several days. And also, one thing I noticed that the burnt umber as a paint for oil wash does really good with painting these like brown grimy streak marks onto the armor, so it actually looks really, really good. And I diluted all this with a little bit of mineral spirits. The washes are made with that. Even the oils, when I painted them on directly, were diluted a bit with mineral spirits, and it made it dry much faster. Like it was touch dry in 24 hours. Now with Corn Red and Evil Sun Scarlet, I am going to do the red trim and highlights. However, I do it in reverse because, I don't know, I think it might be easier. I take the Evil Sun Scarlet and I apply it all over the pieces that are going to be red, and then I take Corn Red and then I fill in it. Instead of highlighting, I'm reverse highlighting. The main reason is because I figure this is easier to not screw up, because I don't want to go back and have to redo a bunch. So like, if the whole thing was painted with Evil Suns, which is easy to do, and then just filled in with Corn Red, it's easier than painting Corn Red and then filling it, or then painting all the edges and lines with Evil Sun Scarlet. I don't know, I feel it was easier to do with less chance of screwing up. And I forgot to get footage of the Corn Red, but you can see what it looks like. Alright then, with Steel Legion Drab, Baneblade Brown, Dark Reaper, Dawnstone, Rakarth Flesh, I don't use Corvus Black, and Gorthor Brown, I paint all these spikes and tooth emblems. So many of them have like teeth and stuff as trophies, as money, if you know the lore. And so I use Steel Legion Drab on the teeth, and then I highlight that with Baneblade Brown. But I do that same mix on some of their spikes and horns that are on their pelts. Others I label with Baneblade Brown and then highlight with Rakarth Flesh. Some I use Dark Reaper as the base and highlight with Dawnstone. And then there's some with Gorthor Brown that I highlight with Rakarth Flesh. It's honestly just a mix, mostly just to have fun, because I really don't know what these beasts were. And so it's just like horns of different colors, of different creatures, or different variations of squigs. I actually don't know much about squigs, apart from they're edible and violent. And yeah, and I just paint that up. Alright, after spending a long time painting those horns, they look kind of dull. They just straight up do. So with Rakarth Flesh, Screaming Skull, and Administratum Grey, we're going to re-highlight them even further. Rakarth Flesh with more of the browner ones, Screaming Skull with more of the tanner ones, and Administrative Grey with the grayer ones. And we apply this as an extra highlight to bring out the color. That's probably one of the issues with these guys, is that they're so free-flowing and have so many different colors and stuff. It really slowed me down on making decisions. And with AK Interactive Ultra Matte Varnish, we varnish everything, since we have now completed all non-metallic metals. And with Iron Warriors, Iron Hand Steel, Iron Breaker, and Brass Scorpion, we're going to paint the metals. We're going to start off with a watered down translucent thing of Iron Warriors. When the metals are watered down this much, they show the undercoats and the highlights that we've naturally created with the dry brushing, stuff like that. Downside, the metal becomes dull and lifeless. This doesn't work too good with these paints. So I applied the Iron Warriors on pretty much all the metals, their blades, all their metal trinkets and stuff like that. And then with Iron Hand Steel, we basically overbrushed on all the metals. We're just doing this fast. We're not really going for precision. I haven't been able to really do good with the metals on these beast Snaggas in the entirety of the box. And then with Iron Breaker, the super light, a few of the guys have like pistons, robotic hands. So we're going to take the Iron Breakers and we're just going to apply this onto the pistons, because those are always super shiny, but I can't really tell the difference. The Ironbreaker is the lightest color I have that consistently works. So, yeah. And then with Brass Scorpion, we're going to apply it all here and there, like to the engine components of each of their axes, and like a plate on each of their guns and stuff. And now for the final details. With Skeleton Horde Contrast, Guilliman Flesh, and I tried Thondia Brown, but I replaced it because it's not good enough with Rhinox Hide. I add the weathering to the gun barrels. And so with Skeleton Horde, I apply this to, well, the gun barrels and the surrounding area, just quick and thin. Then with Guilliman Flesh, I apply it to the gun barrels and a small surrounding area. And then I try with Thondia Brown, but I can barely distinguish it from the surrounding colors. So I swatch it up for Rhinox Hide, and then I just paint the barrels. And for the guy with the big gun, the thump gun, I just fill in the barrel, the hole there. And done, finally. So it was like 2 weeks. Oh, the skin was fun to do, but like it dragged on after that. Like, yeah, there were some times there was like days where I started painting. I was like, you know what? No, I'd do it tomorrow. It's like I didn't want to, because large projects are pretty overwhelming and they do cause issues. They bum you out. So doing a full 20 was probably not a good idea, but it is done. Now, a few challenges. Well, the negatives, the belts and the straps, they look inferior. Somehow I thought I could blend the oil paint into it better, and they noticeably stand out as a bit worse. I mean, they look like they've been highlighted, like reverse highlighted, like I paint the light color and then I fill it in, but it didn't work too well here. Apart from that, that was the only thing that really didn't work too well. Tried a bunch of stuff, made their weapons interesting, their colors. So the Orks green skin looks very vibrant, very alive. There's shadows, it's bright, there's a tinge of yellow in there, and that was done very quickly and easily. Like, their skin was the easiest to do, and it has the most flavor and is most complex. Their pants and stuff like that, it's the different colors made things a bit difficult, but they were done. The weapons, the metal took a while because there's all these simple trinkets and things all around. Overall, the kit is full of color. Like, these are very colorful guys. You're gonna see them across the table. You can clearly see their heads, their bodies, their figures, and stuff like that. I really do like how the oil paint, the brown oil paint, was able to, whatchamacallit, like add like the marks, grime, and stuff like that. I wish I had a good metallic oil so I could add that of something as good quality. But the oil paints did very good with transitioning colors. They look really good. So this was, while trying to mimic the box, essentially me speed painting, sort of. I was like, I used the quickest, fastest techniques. I didn't do abstract. I painted them as is. And they look, well, they're vibrant and colorful. They're beautiful in their own way. Well, off to eBay with you. Anyone who wants them can buy them. Every Friday is when I usually put them up. Alright then. Finally, as for rating, they're not a 10. Are they a 9? Because of the huge squads, there were some things that I missed here and there. Could I have gone further? Could I have gone better? Yes. Could I have also had my sanity and move on to other projects within the month? And if I wanted to push it further on detail and go further? No. They're a solid 8. Overall, they're ensemble pieces. They look great. They're a solid 8. I didn't have the patience to push it any further. I didn't even want to paint the gun barrels, the colors, but I had to, because otherwise it would look horrible for them all to have clean guns. Alright, so moving on to my pile of shame, which is not 100% my pile. It's someone who threw it onto me. Alright then, so like the video if you like the video, dislike it if you dislike it, share it if you want to share it, comment if you want to comment, and I'll see you all hopefully sooner than this. Bye.